U.S. forces liberate another major Iraqi city as Iraqi citizens look to rid themselves of Saddam Hussein for good. Good evening. New victories and new problems tonight for American forces in Iraq.
Here's the latest tonight. Coalition warplanes tonight targeted Saddam Hussein's half-brother, bombing an intelligence operations center about 60 miles outside Baghdad. U.S. forces are also closing in on Saddam's hometown of Tikrit, one of the last major cities they have yet to enter. An apparent suicide bomber detonated explosives at a U.S. checkpoint in central Baghdad, wounding 4 Marines. If there were any thoughts the war was nearly over, American troops got an abrupt reality check. 1 Marine was killed, several injured, fighting all day on Baghdad's northern edge. In the heart of the capital, a suicide bomber wounded 4 Marines at a military checkpoint. And if there's any law left in the city, it hasn't done much good. Looters did some spring cleaning at Saddam's summer palace, and at the lavish home of his deputy prime minister, everything was free. The Pentagon has now ordered U.S. troops to try to stop the looting, but the focus remains on fighting.
Looting is a problem, but it is not a major threat. People are not being killed in looting.
In the north, Kurdish fighters and U.S. Special Forces seized the oil-rich city of Kirkuk. Residents celebrated, and anything resembling Saddam was set on fire, painted over, or torn down.
I want to speak. Thanks, Mr. Bush.
In Baghdad, U.S. forces are trying to send a message to the Iraqi people that Saddam is gone for good. To drive their point home, Marines today moved into the former headquarters of Saddam's dreaded secret police. This was Saddam's fear factory, the Mukhabarat, where thousands of Iraqis went in and many never came out. The secret police badges are now nothing more than souvenirs, the statue of their great leader now in pieces on the floor. Near the port of Basra, the bombed-out shell of Saddam Hussein's yacht is on display. The ostentatious vessel was the target of 2 coalition bombing raids. Military leaders say it's just another example of the lavish life Saddam led, while his people suffered in poverty. Well, tonight, CBS News anchor Dan Rather is on the road to Baghdad. He is expected to be the first network news anchor to report from the Iraqi capital. He filed this report via video phone about the dangers still facing America's fighting men and women.
We saw on 3 occasions pickup trucks loaded with people with guns. On one instance, it was a police car with its lights going, tried to flag down our caravan as we made our way around an obstacle course on the highway. We speeded up and got away. Just a few minutes ago, another situation developed. 2 Iraqi trucks came racing down the road just behind me. The U.S. Army soldiers saw them barreling toward them. They opened fire. Everybody ducked for cover. Nobody knew what the situation was going to be. The trucks hastily turned around and sped away. Who was in them, what their intentions might have been, no one knows. But in the dark, of course, the U.S. troops weren't taking any chances. It's typical of the guerrilla tactics that are being developed in one area after another here around Baghdad, and an indication that it'll take a while, perhaps a long while, before the fighting stops in Iraq. Dan Rather, CBS News, with the Army's 3rd Infantry Division just west of Baghdad.
And Dan will have more of these remarkable images from Baghdad tomorrow on the CBS Evening News. In New Haven tonight, a Yale student's silent protest against the war has drawn an angry response. Channel 3 Eyewitness News reporter Pei Chang is live with our mobile newsroom in New Haven with more on why students are now concerned for their safety. Pei?
Denise, 2 weeks ago, Catherine Lowe was studying in the comfort of her room in this building behind me. That's when she says she was threatened by a group of males for her anti-war stance. And while she has since moved to a new place, she says that the memory of the incident is still very unsettling.
Never even crossed my mind that someone expressing a peaceful message, even if it is a message of dissent, would be attacked in a violent and intimidating way.
When Catherine Lowe hung an American flag upside down from her room window in protest of the Iraqi war, she did not expect the response.
And they say, "This is the room." Immediately I jump up and lock the door, and within minutes they attempt to open the knob, to turn the knob and enter my room without knocking, so that led me to believe that they were there, you know, not to just have a peaceful dialogue.
Catherine says eyewitnesses saw a group of white males at her door, one of the males holding a wooden 2x4. When she didn't answer the door, they left her a note, a message laced with anti-Muslim remarks, which puzzled Catherine, who is of Asian descent.
I mean, there's a lot of sort of emotional responses to this, and I mean, there's irritation, obviously, there's a lot of anger that's being felt on campus, but right now, more than anything, it's genuine concern for our safety.
Other students say they've also been threatened for their beliefs.
We're staging dissent, they're staging terror.
You've seen as un-American, you've seen as someone who deserves to be threatened with violence, and we're just here to say that we're not going to stand for it anymore.
And many are concerned over the way the school has handled these incidents.
And that's what's really been concerning us, the fact that the university's been so unresponsive to our own security concerns.
One of the reasons why these students are dissatisfied with the administration is that although this happened more than 2 weeks ago, the administration only notified students today. That's Monday of this week. As for the school, Eyewitness News did try to contact them, but they did not return our calls. Live in New Haven, Paisy Cheng, Channel 3, Eyewitness News.
In New York, thousands of people converged on the site of the World Trade Center today. They were there to rally in support of U.S. troops fighting in Iraq. Carpenters, electricians, firefighters, and thousands of other union workers waved flags and homemade signs. Red, white, and blue bandanas stretched for several blocks. We invite you to stay with Channel 3 Eyewitness News for continuing coverage of America at war. We will have the very latest on the U.S. advance into Baghdad and throughout Baghdad throughout the day tomorrow.
And we have new information tonight on those suspected cases of SARS in Connecticut. Eyewitness News has learned more about where the cases of this mysterious illness are. State health officials tell us they've identified 4 suspected cases overall, 2 in Fairfield County, 1 each in New London and New Haven counties. All 4 patients are recovering and doing well. Until now, the Department of Public Health had refused to release any information about where the patients live, citing concerns over confidentiality. And there are new concerns tonight about the spread of the SARS virus. A Florida woman who contracted SARS abroad seems to have infected a co-worker. And it marks the first time in the U.S. the disease has been spread to someone other than a household member or a healthcare worker.
Hartford police tonight can claim a major victory in the war on drugs in the capital city and Metro Hartford. Happened right near St. Francis Hospital in the Asylum Hill section of the city. Channel 3 Eyewitness News reporter Kim Fettig is live there with details of the biggest drug bust in recent memory. Kim.
Well, Dennis, we are not just talking about a big bust, but what police are calling an unlikely neighborhood here. You mentioned St. Francis Hospital right here off of Farmington Avenue, but this is also a neighborhood. You can look down the street. There's a school nearby. And police tonight are saying this is not just a major drug bust, but one experienced narcotics officer is even calling it the type of thing that makes the highlights of careers.
When you look at it, you go, okay, we got this, and then you go, oh, we really got something here. And from the standpoint of the amount, I don't know, I haven't seen that in years, and I've been working this for quite a while.
The Hartford officer talking about a large garbage bag of marijuana and nearly a dozen pounds of coke taken from here, just across the street from St. Francis Hospital. Undercover agents waited patiently for 28-year-old Robert Kelly. He arrived with a full duffel bag and left with an empty bag. That's when cops moved in.
They just kept dogging this guy and dogging him, and they followed him from here to there. They lose him, they find him, and just on a break, they just caught him.
And inside the Atwood Street apartment, police made a find they say will put a large dent in Hartford's drug war. More than $17,000 and more than $1 million worth of drugs.
He doesn't even touch the street level people. He's just distributing by pounds, and you're talking about large quantities of money being, you know, just consumed by this guy. It's a major, major deal right here. That's what we got.
And on a tip that the suspect could use an alias, he is being held tonight on $1 million bond. We're live in Hartford. I'm Kim Fettig, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
A new vote, but it's the same result for the Amity School District for the 14th time. Voters in Bethany, Orange, and Woodbridge rejected a budget plan for the district. The measure failed by better than a 2-to-1 margin. Many voters say they will keep rejecting this budget until board members responsible for financial mismanagement step down.
Well, today, fans of the national champion UConn Huskies women's basketball team got to see their favorites up close and personal. Hundreds of fans turned out for a victory rally on the steps of the state capitol earlier tonight. They carried signs and banners and cheered the team, Governor Rowland, and Coach Gino Auriemma. Auriemma was booed briefly when he said there would be no parade, and then explained why.
No. Don't boo that. Don't boo that. There shouldn't be a parade this year. There should be this, because there's other things going on, and I'm not sure we need to have a parade yet until these people behind me right here, until all their friends come home.
An obvious reference to the war in Iraq. The coach made no predictions for next year. The Huskies have won 4 national titles since 1995.
I was scared. I didn't really want them online. I tell them, don't go into the chat rooms.
A chilling demonstration for parents tonight, a real-life lesson on the dangers of cyberspace.
As U.S. forces roll into Baghdad, new questions emerge in the case of a U.S. pilot missing since the first Gulf War. Why military leaders think he may still be alive.
More rain is on the way for tomorrow. Coming up, when it will start and how long it will last into the weekend.
You're watching Channel 3 Eyewitness News at 11. Eyewitness News is everywhere. You're watching Channel 3 Eyewitness News at 11. Eyewitness News is everywhere.
And Eyewitness News is in Tulsa right now when a fuel tank blew up. Investigators say workers were pumping about 8,400 barrels of diesel fuel into a storage tank through a pipeline when that explosion occurred. The nearby highway had to be shut down and homes were evacuated. Despite the flames and danger, nobody was hurt.
In Wallingford, the owners of a Citgo on Route 150 are hoping to reopen tomorrow after a fiery crash earlier today. Police say an elderly woman drove her Honda Civic right into a gas pump. The car burst into flames, but 2 eyewitnesses quickly pulled her to safety. She did not suffer any burns. Just why the woman lost control is not yet clear.
Congress has passed a bill for a national Amber Alert network. Now, Connecticut already has the system in place, which helps law enforcement and the public find missing children. President Bush is expected to sign the bill into law. The national network would be named after Amber Hagerman. She's a 9-year-old girl from Texas who was kidnapped in suburban Dallas and later found murdered.
Tonight in Manchester, parents got a first-hand look at the dangers children can face surfing the internet. Channel 3 Eyewitness News reporter Len Bestoff is in the Channel 3 newsroom with what every parent should know. Len?
Well, Denise, the parents got a number of tips about letting their kids use the internet. For example, have your child's computer in a common area and don't allow him or her to use their birth year and their email address, because you never know who they might start talking to.
Your kids already know more about computers than you do. If you're not paying attention, they have free reign.
Manchester police showed parents how, with just a click of a mouse, the internet can quickly become a dangerous place for your child. It's something one of Terry Smith's children has already experienced.
My daughter, she was 12, I believe she had received some email from a Monica in Atlanta, and it was quite pornographic. I was scared. I didn't really want them online. I tell them, don't go into the chat room.
It gets worse than that. Smith and a dozen other parents sat amazed while Lieutenant Mark Montminy posed as an adolescent female in a live chat room. Within seconds, people made advances, leaving parents like Donna Wu concerned.
I know it's out there, and you think that they won't respond to it, but I think it only takes once for them to respond.
These parents learned a lot of internet safety do's and don'ts in this class, though. Lisa Kidder wasn't aware how extensively she could monitor which sites her kids visit.
I knew a little bit about how to track what they were doing and where they were going to be sure they were staying within the limits we'd set, but now I know a little bit more about how to do that.
Still, parents like Smith know this will probably help them keep a better web watch over their kids for just a little while.
A little more confident, but they do know a lot more than we do. And it's just a matter of keeping up with the classes and learning as much as we can.
Now, other tips include don't allow your children to surf the net unsupervised, don't give them a private email address, and of course, use software that'll screen inappropriate content. Len Bestoff, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Now it's time for Eyewitness News exclusive segment, Hometown Heroes. This is where we put the spotlight on Connecticut's brave men and women serving in the military. We begin with Airman Sean Clifford of the U.S. Navy. He comes from Summers. Airman Clifford is serving in the Middle East on the USS Nimitz as an aircraft mechanic. This hometown hero is Sergeant David Franklin Sear. Sergeant Sear lives in Middletown. He is serving in Afghanistan now with the 82nd Airborne. And this is Army Specialist Douglas Conkling, also of the 82nd Airborne. He's a graduate of Bunnell High School in Stratford, joined the Army in 2001. Specialist Conkling was deployed in March. He's engaged to be married. And we want to know about your own hometown hero. To fill us in, just log on to our website, WFSB.com. Click on the Hometown Heroes link.
U.S. intelligence officers are heading to Iraq right now to look for a Navy pilot shot down. Not in the last 3 weeks, but during the first Gulf War, more than a decade ago. New information now reveals Scott Spiker could still be alive and possibly was held as a POW for a dozen years in Iraq. Amid the street celebrations in Baghdad, a sobering assessment from Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld. The war isn't over.
We still must find and ensure the safe return of prisoners of war, those captured in this war as well as any still held from the last Gulf War.
A reference to Navy pilot Michael Scott Spiker. Spiker's F-18 took off from the USS Saratoga the opening night of the Gulf War in 1991. He was shot down. The next day, then Defense Secretary Dick Cheney listed Spiker as killed in action. Florida Senator Bill Nelson says he believes the Defense Department made a mistake.
An eyewitness that drove him from the site of the crash to a hospital. So we know he was alive. And I have seen evidence since that leads me to believe that he's still alive.
This is the wreckage of Spiker's F-18 located in 1995 in the Iraqi desert. An ejection seat was never found, and neither were human remains. Iraq has denied holding Spiker.
You can imagine the trauma on an American family like that.
There is now a concerted effort to find out what happened to Spiker. He is the only serviceman to go from killed in action to MIA to POW. Now the administration hopes by toppling a regime, they can also find answers to a haunting question. Spiker left a wife and 2 small children. Years after he was declared dead, his wife remarried one of her husband's best friends.
2 bridge inspectors were knocked from a bridge by a barge sailing by. One of the inspectors was killed in the accident. The 2 men were using a bucket truck to inspect the underside of the bridge when the boom was hit. One inspector was able to swim to safety. Rescuers found the other man after a 3-hour search.
Near Los Angeles, police are on the hunt for 3 brazen thieves who robbed armfuls of jewelry. The crime was recorded by surveillance cameras. Investigators are now studying that tape very carefully to see if they can identify the hoodlums.
In Boston, a courageous cab driver is being called a hero for running into a burning building and saving a woman's life. 20-year-old Blake Tuplin was driving late last night when he saw fire coming from an apartment house. He ran to ring the front doorbell and got no response, so he knocked down the front door there.
I kicked the door, and then I saw a guy come running downstairs with another guy, and then a Spanish lady came down. She was yelling all the Spanish that I didn't understand, and I understood mom. And then I looked over and I saw her mom holding onto the railing.
He ran up the stairs and carried the woman out to safety. The cause of that fire is still under investigation.
Accurate, dependable. Now Eyewitness Weather with your live Doppler 3000 Futurecast. Here's Chief Meteorologist Bruce DePrest.
Well, good evening, everybody. Today was the nicest day of the week so far with sunshine and temperatures in the 50s, but I'm afraid it's going to be the nicest day of the entire week. Tomorrow, weather conditions head downhill once again. All right, live Doppler 3000, not picking up any rain now, but it's going to be a different story come tomorrow afternoon on into tomorrow evening and even part of the weekend, too. We go outside to Hartford where we have mostly cloudy skies overhead, but it's dry, and it's going to stay dry through the morning commute. So we don't have to deal with rain for the Friday morning commute. Hartford's temperature is 45. Other areas are much cooler. Waterbury 37 and Willimantic also 37 degrees. Now, looking in New Haven, this is at the Yale campus. New Haven is on the cool side this evening. Temperatures in southern Connecticut starting with Meriden 38. New Haven is 38 and so is New London, all coming in with 38 degrees. All right, here is the timeline for the rainy Friday. Rain developing around 9 o'clock in southern portions of Connecticut, holding off until noon across northern portions of the state. In fact, some parts of Connecticut, especially the northeastern portion of the state, may not see any rain until tomorrow afternoon. A good drenching Friday night and rainfall totals an inch or 2 by midday Saturday. New York City out of this storm could get more than 2 inches of rain, while Albany, New York gets practically nothing. That's how close we are going to be to some very heavy rainfall. Clouds are moving up from the south right now, kind of a high overcast out there. And this is a big storm, like a big pinwheel in the southeastern United States. This storm has brought a foot of snow to the mountains of North and South Carolina, and you can see the moisture is spreading up the coastline. So Futurecast shows clouds moving in tonight and tomorrow morning, rain developing again by midday. Rain heavy at times for tomorrow night into Saturday morning, but then all the wet weather moves away Saturday afternoon, maybe some breaks in the clouds before the day is over. And then Sunday looks a lot better, the best day of the weekend. High temperatures tomorrow just in the 40s with a cool northeasterly flow. We may get into the 50s Saturday, depending on how much late day sun we get. And then high temperatures Sunday well up into the 50s. Overnight lows in the 30s for the most part, and daytime highs tomorrow generally in the mid-40s. A chilly day with rain, most of that coming in the afternoon. Here is your 7-day forecast. And things are looking a lot better once we get past Saturday morning. Some partial clearing late Saturday. Sunday, mostly sunny in the 50s, 60s on Monday. And, you know, well up in the 70s, not only Tuesday, but Wednesday as well. Eyewitness News at 11 will continue following this break.
Log on to WFSB.com and register for 3Mail. Get breaking news and eyewitness weather right to your desktop. On air and online, Eyewitness News is everywhere.
What it's like to be fat. Next, Oprah.
Today at 4 on Channel 3, followed by Eyewitness News at 5 with Denise DeCenzo and Al Terzi.
Air passengers will no longer be flying twice the speed of sound. Concorde service is flying into early retirement. Air France and British Airways made the announcement today. The high-speed, high-priced flights will end in October after 27 years in flight. Officials cite falling revenues and rising maintenance costs. Delta Airlines is launching a new low-cost carrier. They unveiled the new Song airline in Georgia today. The lime-colored planes include live satellite TV, video on demand, and an audio library. They plan to offer 144 daily flights by the fall, including flights out of Bradley Airport and Windsor Locks.
Well, tonight, one of Connecticut's most well-known citizens has a star on the Walk of Fame. Regis Philbin is the newest star on the Hollywood Trail. Philbin is a morning mainstay, starring on Live with Regis and Kelly, the show formerly known as Live with Regis and Kathy Lee.